I woke up and the smoke detectors were not going off. So I just happened to wake up. It was at 4 in the morning.
To wake up.
Yeah. God woke me up.
Okay.
I feel like that was God's way of like, I'm always here.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go through this.
He sure love you. Okay, let me ask. No matter where you are in your walk with Christ, Jomilla Denae offers a safe space for reflection and dialogue. This is Jomilla Denae. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Jomilla Denae. I'm your humble host, Jomilla Denae. And my guest today is very special to me. She's an MTSU alum like myself, a mother of one. She's in clinical research, and she works for She-trition, which is a nutrition subscription service. Everyone, Jasmine Govan. I've been knowing her for years. Don't know how to pronounce her last name, but that's just how it is sometimes, you know?
I have so many nicknames, so it makes sense.
Yeah. But it's good to sit down and talk with you.
Same. I'm excited.
I'm excited as well. I'll let the people know. Once again, this is another retape. Jasmine was one of my first guests. You were my second guest. That's what it was. But it was like my first recording. And in the spirit of just growth and being transparent, we're just going to record again. And this time, I think the conversation will be more in depth. Today, we're talking about our children and how we're trying to raise them up to know Christ. Because that's really all we can do is to let them know. What they do after that is on them.
Their decision, yeah.
But before we get into that, you know I got to do my first segment. This you. So for this segment, if you don't know by now, I'm going to be reading some things I got from social media. And Jasmine has to let me know if she thinks it's her or not. You think you know yourself?
A little bit.
Okay. So, I don't know what God has planned for me, but honey, I've been tested this week. Some I passed, some I didn't. This you?
That sounds like something I say.
It is. You tweeted that in 2020.
Sounds about right.
Was 2020 a year for you? Or
yeah, I feel like 2020 was a year for everybody, though.
Yeah, you're right. That was the pandemic year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this was in July. So, yeah, right in the middle.
It probably was when I had COVID. July? Actually, yeah, it might have been.
Mm-hmm. And one thing God gonna do is test you.
Right.
Okay, but I'm glad you passed some of them. So, shout out to you. Here's another one. If you have Jesus, you have everything. Is this you?
I don't think so.
It's not. Okay, look at you. You're like probably the first person to get it right.
Really?
I don't know.
Oh,
I feel that
like
way. At least, yeah, when it comes to not knowing that it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
So this was actually a tweet from Living Christian. So shout out to them. And I agree. If you don't have Jesus, you don't have anything. If you have Jesus, you have everything. Both of those are true. All right, one more. So much going on in the world. All I can do is pray and be ready for whatever. Shaking my head.
That sounds like me.
Yeah, it was you. This was back in 2016, so it was a while ago.
Yeah.
And it's always so much going on in the world. And I feel like, I think I just posted this on my Instagram, like, you really have to stay prayed up. You can't be reactive when it comes to prayer.
Yes.
I think it's very important that you be proactive.
Yes.
Like, go ahead and say that prayer because you know you're going to need it. Don't be trying to do the catch-up prayers after something don't happen. Like, that's just the word for you guys because that's something that I'm learning. Like, I even just prayed before this podcast because I don't want to, like, record and then be like, oh, man.
After, yeah.
I should have prayed for this. So, yeah.
Gotta stay protected.
Guys, be proactive, not reactive. So, before we get into how we're trying to raise our children, I want to talk about you and your walk with Christ. So, what is your Christian origin story?
Let's see. Growing up, my mom really wasn't a churchgoer. Like, we went for holidays and, you know, first Sunday.
Easter.
Yeah, the typical when you know church is going to be full. Those are the days where we went. She really wasn't like a weekly churchgoer. So, you know, I remember being there for Easter and all of those things and just kind of like, oh, we're going to church for holidays, but it wasn't like a habit of hers. I didn't become more involved in church until I got older and I decided to start going with my friends and, you know, like, oh, you're going to church? Okay, I'm going to ride with my friends and go. I wasn't baptized actually until I was 16. So I was older when I chose Christ and
To
that
put
was
on the
like
jersey of Christ.
Yeah.
Like,
and that was a very which I actually kind of appreciated that. I feel like since I was older, I really understood
That
instead of
part.
like, a lot of people get rebaptized when they get older because they're like, yeah,
That's gonna be
which is
me.
also a journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I was, it was a decision that I made. And
I
so,
love that.
yeah, it's super, I feel like my relationship with Christ is super personal because, I was older and I made that decision. Even though I was there when I was little, it just kind of like progressed because of what I wanted instead of like, my mom kind of be like, you need to go to church. She never was that
love
parent,
that.
which, pros and cons to both sides, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder sometimes, like, what if your mom never introduced you to the church at that young age? Would you still have those same feelings about, I guess you'll never know.
Right.
But it is something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
I do sometimes hear that people were raised in the church and then they made that decision later to come to Christ. For me, that's not my story. I was forced to go to church, okay? Definitely was.
Church kid.
I have the mom. God bless her. She did the best. She's doing the best that she can. Did the best that she can. I don't know. She would force me to go to church. And I was baptized at 9, not knowing really what that meant and not really feeling like a change. So I am going to be that adult that goes back when I feel like God is calling me to be like really baptized.
Yeah.
Because honestly, we were talking about baptism today at the church and they were saying like what baptism was. It's kind of like you, like I said, putting on the jersey and proclaiming, basically, I'm rocking with God.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I thought that being under the water was kind of like being born again, which I guess it is in a sense, but that comes after. I feel like that comes with your actions and that's just kind of like the first step is the baptism. It's all symbolism, of course.
Yeah.
So I think it's funny that you brought that up because I was definitely one of them kids. But so now, looking at your kids, you said you don't force him to go?
No. So he mainly goes with his grandparents.
Okay.
I've just now actually started back going to church. So, and I'm still in the process of looking for a church home. So, and he'll go to kids' church. He likes it. He enjoys it. But if I wake up and I say, hey, Trey, mommy's going to church today. Do you want to go? If he says no, then I just stream from home.
Give me a high five on that. Because I feel like that's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
Like, my child didn't go to church today, but I did, you know? And I feel like if she went to church today, she would have probably, one, fell asleep because it's Sundays, it's the fourth Sunday. So on fourth Sundays, there's no kids' church. So she would have been upstairs. And I feel like when you're upstairs in a adult-centered church, they're not really focused on the kids. Now, granted, they did have an exception today where they actually were focused on the kids, but it doesn't really happen often.
Yeah.
So my thing with my child is I'm not going to force her to go and then she doesn't get anything out of it. Now, if there's children's church, I might encourage her, like, you sure you don't want to miss out on, church today because the children's church stuff, but I'm not going to force her. And I feel like you shouldn't. Honestly, because I want to introduce God to her, but I'm not pushing God on her, if that makes sense. I believe in the first podcast that came out, I even spoke on it a little bit about how when it comes to children, like you have to be very cautious.
Yeah.
And there's good in the Bible for everyone, so I don't ever go against like Sunday service and stuff like that. Or Bible study, or what am I trying to say, y'all? Sunday school. I cannot think of the word. I'm like, there's something where they teach you the basics and fundamentals of God in the Bible. And then there's preaching, which sometimes can go over a child's head.
Yeah, for sure.
But other than just church, I'm curious to know, like, how do you practice Christianity in your home with just you and Trey?
I've always said that I see spirituality and Christianity as a spectrum. Like there are some people who lean more towards, I guess you could say like the spiritual side, even though Christianity is spiritual. But like, you know how people talk about like crystals and like if someone has an altar in their own home, as opposed to like going to church and using that altar.
Because they can have church at home.
Right. So I do have an altar at home. So if I choose, I do. So if I choose not to go, I stream it, online. I'm thinking it's for technology. Yeah. You can just stream it online. And then, I might have my own Bible study at home as opposed to going to church. But I think the important part of church for me is also combining that with community and people. Because you can have your own personal service at home, right? But I feel like when you bring in the community part, sometimes sermons kind of hit a little different, and then someone else preaching as opposed to like me doing Bible study or just kind of like meditating on certain things is two different things, but I like to do both. So I would say I'm like right in the middle of like super spiritual, but Christian. And so yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like you make your own, I guess, practices, but you don't leave out the community, which is church.
Right.
Because that's also important.
Right.
And I feel like I do the same thing, girl. I go to church maybe 2 times a month.
Yeah.
But I'm always excited when I go because I get to see my community and I get to be poured into. Now tell me about this altar though. So, some Christians going to be watching this right now.
I
like,
know.
She got an altar. Like, what?
The devil.
What's on your altar? What is the altar? That is something that I'm curious about.
To me, I feel like everybody's altar is different. So it doesn't have to look a certain way. It's not, which I know is really associated with like witchcraft. And I don't subscribe to that really.
It's like, why is talking to our ancestors and like doing stuff like that?
Exactly.
Witchcraft. I hate that.
I have like my grandma's obituary up there. I have my dad's ashes up there.
Wow.
So it's just,
That's really
an area.
Yes.
Yeah, just an area where it's just like I can go pray or, visit with my spirit guides, ancestors, whatever name you want to give them. But yeah, so it's not like, and I'll light a candle up there every now and then, but it's just where I keep everything that makes me feel connected. Yeah. To God and to my ancestors.
So do you give offerings? Do you? Okay.
Like there's a glass of water up there. So like I put water up there and stuff like that. That's kind of my version of like offerings.
Have you ever had any encounters where you feel like, I know my dad's been here. I know my grandma's been here because there's less water. You know how people say that? Like,
yeah, so like
stuff just disappears that they put on the altar.
It's crazy. Like the water actually will it goes down to the point where I have to like refill it. So I'm like, that's interesting. But like the speed in which it kind of like evaporates is interesting to me because it's always different, which is interesting. But yeah,
that's so interesting to me. I might have to do an altar myself.
Yeah,
I think I had something similar, but never as like it wasn't
like
intentional. I had like my aunt passed, she was my favorite aunt, and I had her obituary and I had like the flowers from her funeral. And it was just something like I would just look at, and I never prayed, with it, but that makes sense.
Yeah. I see it as kind of like the same as a church altar, but it's just smaller and personal to me. I see them synonymously, honestly. I don't see the difference. But, everybody sees it differently.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know somebody watching. Like, it's not the same.
That's okay.
So when it comes to your son, what kind of things do you teach him about God? Or is it, you kind of like leave it for the church to do? Or do you also like actively, like these Bible studies are you having? Is he included?
He isn't yet. I kind of leave it right now because he's 5. I kind of leave it with kids' church and, learning the Bible verses and all that stuff. And then if he has questions, then we can deep dive. He doesn't ask a lot of questions as of now, but when he does, then we can sit down and have Bible study if he wants, or I'll just answer his questions honestly. I feel that's really all that I can do. Like he knows about my altar, right? So he might ask me, what's up there? Yeah, like what are you doing? It's like, oh, you lit a candle up there, stuff like that. But I don't think he's really kind of like honed in on it yet because he's been going to church since he was a baby. So I think he's still in that stage of, oh, okay, we're going to church, or, oh, okay, that's mommy's altar. Like, it's not
clicking yet.
Yeah, it's not something that's of interest to him yet. So we haven't gotten there yet, but I'll just let him. I just think for me, I'm going to let him witness how I handle my spirituality, and then it's going to naturally just grow,
And as parents, is that not like the best way to teach them by example? And you going to church when he doesn't, like he sees that. Yeah. So do you pray with him or encourage him to pray? Does he know how to pray as a 5-year-old? Like, what does his prayers look like? Because I know for my child, it's a bunch of thank you for my mom, thank you for my dad. Like it's just a thank you, or maybe asking for something.
Yeah, a toy or something. He will ask me to pray. Like one day he opened his arms and he was like, come on, let's pray. He gets that from his grandfather though, his papa. Yeah, he's been praying over Trey since he was a baby. Like he'll just like hold him and just.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And so Trey be like, come on, Mom, let's pray. And he'll give me a hug. And he whispers. I can't really hear what he's saying, but he's like, amen. And I'm like, good job, baby. You know. And so yeah, that's kind of where he's at now. It's so sweet.
Okay. So you being a Christian, but you saying like you're not, I mean, like you're spiritual and you still practice things that are, I guess, a typical Christian wouldn't practice. What would your rebuttal be to people who feel like maybe you shouldn't be teaching your child about Christianity, you know, at a young age? Because there's some people that believe that. Almost like the question or the topic of sexuality. Sometimes parents just kind of like avoid that at all costs. So what do you feel for people who feel that way? Like, how do you, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, what would your rebuttal be to them? Like, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be trying to, you're not pushing God on him, but the fact that you introduced God to him and the prayer thing and things like that. So
I don't know, because I haven't really had that encounter yet. If I had to say, I think that, and this is just my opinion, I think that everybody should be submissive to something. And I think that I'm more so focused on teaching Trey that there's a bigger picture. Like, we're not just here by ourselves. There are things at work that, you know, support us and lead us through life. And you're not just on your own, and, you know, God is leading yours. I think that that's more important, especially when it comes to like, as kids get older and they feel, you know, how the like preteen/teen stage is, it can be very lonely. And I think even if he has something that he can lean on, even if he feels like he can't come to me, I think that's what's important to me. And then as he gets older, he's still, you know, still teaching like boundaries. If he grows up and one day is like, no, I don't really care for church, you know, okay.
You'll be okay with that?
Yeah. Okay.
Because you did your part.
Right. So it's like, just because that's how I live my life, I'm going to keep living my life, right? Because, and I'm raising my child, not to live like me, but just to be an example, like we said. And then as he gets older, that's going to maybe shift and change, and then we change together. Just kind of like addressing those things as they come. Yeah.
So speaking of leading by example, I know as much as an angel as you are, you're a human.
Yes.
And so I know that you're going to have moments where it's like you're already kind of going through it with your journey with God. How do you navigate that and like staying
like consistent?
Or what I'm trying to say is like staying that example even through like the dark times, the hard times, the times where you like going through it yourself, but you're trying to still set a good example when it comes to being a Christian.
I think that it's okay to show my son that sometimes you are going to go through those times and you might not have the bandwidth, like to, for example, say that I decide that I don't want to go to church for a little while because I feel as though I don't have the bandwidth to even be social, or, you know what I mean? Like, and there have been those times where I just prefer to stream at home in the comfort of my home and just process things that I need to process. Cause I'm not really, you know, there's some people in church who are like completely okay with like crying in church and like feeling, and I haven't gotten to that point yet. So if I know that I'm kind of going through and I'm going to have an emotional response, like a sermon or something, I'm like, I'd rather do that at home. And I think teaching him that as long as you keep your personal practices intact and, you know, you're keeping those like habits to keep you close to God, even if you don't feel like it's going to look different as you go through certain things, then that's okay.
Okay. Because I know the reason why I'm asking that is because I know that you did go through some tough times, and I want to speak on that and then just ask you, like, how was your relationship with God during those times? Because I know it can get testy.
Yeah, it definitely can. It definitely was a lot of why.
Yeah.
And why again, and why some more? Like, what is happening?
And why do people like say it's a bad thing to question God? Because sometimes I do want to know why.
Yeah, no, sometimes I really do want to know why. Me
Clarity
too.
is my thing.
Like, no,
and
I actually
would
want to know
ask
why.
Anybody why.
And
so
that
it's like
answer
to say not to ask my father why, I don't get that.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's like, don't question God kind of thing. But it's like,
but why?
even when I pray, it's more of like a conversation than anything, rather than like a super formal, like, thank you, God, for, which of course I do that part too. But sometimes it might just be a conversation and be like, can you show me what's like, what's going on? And, you know, where should I go? What's going on? And where do I go from here? And sometimes, especially those dark times, I was like, you have to show me, at least please give me like a sign of like why I'm going through this. And then, you know, you pray on it and then you leave it.
Did you get the sign or no? I'm waiting to see if you got the sign or not.
I think that, yeah, I did, because I prayed about that and I was like, what's going on? And I feel like the lesson during that time was it's okay to lean on other people, because I'm a super independent person and I don't really like to ask for help. And I feel like God was like, oh, okay, well, what choice do you have now than to, you know, kind of surrender and just like, you can't be in control of everything. And I feel like that's the lesson most times, because we love to be in control. And I think that control and trusting God is always kind of like a battle. And so, yeah.
I'm right there with it. I think I've learned to give it more to him now, because it usually all works out in the end. But before, when you're like deep in the pain, you're deep in the like turmoil, the stress, the confusion, it's hard to just let it go. You like, I have to control something.
Yeah.
And sometimes that may be your child. Like it might be your job. You know, it's not always like a good thing. But at the end of the day, God is in control.
Right.
But I wanted to go back to, like I said, the hard times. What was a time that you felt like you had to lean more on God, trust more on God, and like you said, your community?
I mean, of course, in motherhood, you have to do that every day.
Yeah, but it takes a village.
Yeah. And then outside of that, I mean, was it 2024? 2 years ago, I had a house fire and lost everything. So everything material-wise. Material-wise, because I didn't lose everything. Me and my son made it out. So thank you, God, for that. But yeah, that house fire was a doozy for me. It was really hard. Like,
was that one of those moments you were questioning God?
Yeah, because it just was so out of, there was nothing that I could have done in that moment. And that's a really hard thing to accept, because, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, I could have did this differently. Like, just like everyday life stuff is like, oh, I could have, you know, maybe did this differently. But when it comes to like natural disasters and things of that sort, it's like, what could I have done? Yeah. It's like, what could I have done? And even like, so it was like, oh, there's nothing in that moment that I could have done. It just happened to me.
Right. But even in that moment, do you feel like there were moments where you saw God working, or you look back and you're like, okay, that was you? Not even like a lesson or nothing like that, but just like God being present even in the fire, maybe.
Absolutely. Even like the night that the fire happened, I mean, I woke up and the smoke detectors were not going off. So I just happened to wake up. It was at 4 in the morning.
To wake up.
Yeah. God woke me up.
Okay.
To clarify. Yeah. And so I just woke up and I was like, and I couldn't, I mean, there was a smell, but it wasn't like fire. It was just like, what's that smell? And I almost went back to sleep. And then something, again, God was like, no, get up and go check. And I got up and saw what was happening and had to go and skedaddle and get out of there. But it's interesting, even before, like, you know how sometimes your anxiety can feel like impending doom? Sometimes it's like something's coming, but I had that feeling for like
premonition.
I had that feeling for like 2 weeks prior. And I actually,
2 weeks before the fire?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I actually kept waking up at the same time every night prior to the fire.
That
so when
chills.
I know, me too.
What?
Even just talking about it, like, I kept waking up and I was like, I've never had anxiety like this. Like, you know, the kind of anxiety that keeps you up at night. And I was like, why do I keep waking up? Like, I can't get a good night's sleep. And I was frustrated too. Like why do I keep waking up? Because, you know, especially as a mom, I'm trying to get some sleep.
Hard to go back to sleep sometimes.
So when I woke up that night, I was thinking it was just another like, oh, same time. Like, I've been waking up like, okay, let me go back to sleep. But that night I was like, no, don't go back to sleep.
Oh, Jesus.
Girl. And so it really was just like, I feel like that was God's way of like, you know, I'm always here. You're going to go through this.
He sure love you. Okay, let me ask. That's so beautiful. Oh, we should have some tissue.
You're good, girl. I'm not gonna let him fall.
Okay. But that is beautiful. Like I said, I really did get chills because it's like God really be looking out for us, even through the questions and the turmoil. And we're like, where are you, God? And he's like, I'm right here.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's thank you so much for sharing that. Like, I did not mean to.
Every time I do, it's like opens up those emotional.
Yeah, like,
and which is good.
The fact that I feel like you told me this already, but
I know
the chills were very real because I think that we probably all have stories like that where we're thinking God has like seriously abandoned us. Like, where are you?
Yeah.
And then something like that happens, and it, I don't know why God likes to be all dramatic and stuff like that.
Girl.
That's a question for whenever I meet him, because I really want to know.
And it was funny because it was like, my friend, she made a joke. She was like, you just shouldn't manifest anything else, because I manifest moving. I manifested a new car, which my car actually died on me shortly after the fire as well. And I was like, you know what? What's going on? And then my friend reminded me, and she was like, didn't you manifest moving in a new house and also a new car? And I was like, I did.
You just didn't know how it's coming.
Right.
It's coming like
Next time I'm going to be specific.
Yeah. Lord, please. I'm not your strongest soldier.
That's not what I meant.
That's not what I meant. But yeah, I'm so glad that y'all survived that. And now, how is your new place? How's everything working out?
I love it so much. I love it. I'm in a townhome now because I was in an apartment before. So now we're in a townhouse, and, Trey had his own room before, but his room now is like, you can tell he loves his room. And I love our townhome. Like, I love being at home, my little bubble. I got a chance to, like, even after, like, because that's such a tragic thing, but I got such a reset. Like, even just like, decorating and picking out.
Yeah, it's exciting. That kind of stuff is exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I almost
in your 30s, but as an adult.
Yeah, like it's exciting. Like, I get to go pick out a couch and I can pick like everything.
Look at God. Look how God works.
Right.
That's amazing.
And I almost at times kind of felt bad being excited about like picking out new things. I don't know where look, I'm still in therapy now, but I don't know where that came from. Because it's like, I'm getting all these new things. Like, I guess it's kind of like, what is it called? Imposter syndrome, where you kind of feel like,
or either survivor's remorse, because you could have died that day.
Yeah, exactly. That's a better term for it. Yeah.
Did anyone get hurt on that day?
Yes. So my neighbor above me, which I think is where the fire started. When I looked at the fire report, it was like inconclusive, but she had to jump out of her window.
Jeez.
Yeah, and she hurt her leg, and she lost her dog, which was super sad.
God.
So, but no one passed away. So
no humans.
Right. No humans passed away. But so thank God for that. And I was the first person out. So I was the one who called 911.
Of course you were.
Of course.
Because that was your role in that day. Right. Because God knew.
Right. He said, get on up. He said, go and get up out the bed.
Yeah. And don't think it's unusual because you've been doing this the past 2 weeks. I've been doing it. Like, he be working.
Yes.
Sometimes we still got questions, but at the end, it works out in our favor.
Yeah.
And speaking of our favor, I want to ask you this. Do you sometimes feel like you get blessed more because of your child? Because I definitely do.
Oh, for sure.
Because I'd be like, clearly, it's just like some things work out. And it's like, it favors my children. And I'm like, if I didn't have these kids, Lord, would you be blessing me like this?
No, seriously, though.
So I feel like that too?
Yeah, for sure. But I feel like when you choose the path of motherhood, God is going to bless you because you're accepting this assignment to lead and raise and rear, a child that he gave to you. So I feel like when you accept that assignment, God is going to bless you and everything is always going to work out because like, I got to take care of this child.
Hello.
Yeah.
And God sees that. It's an innocent child,
Right, exactly.
So I do sometimes feel like my blessings aren't fair. In your sense of you talking about like picking out the new furniture and stuff, like maybe that wasn't for you. Maybe it was for your child to have his nice room with this new furniture, It's just something that I think about.
He received more clothes than I did during that time, which is great.
Okay.
But yeah, I definitely think so.
Okay, I knew I wasn't the only one. So tell me more about Trey, because I know that you said that he's special needs. And that's even a
whole other,
yeah. So can you speak on that?
Yeah, so he's on the autism spectrum. He was diagnosed at 2 and he's 5 now. So yeah, he's been doing his therapies and He has an IEP with school, which is just something in writing for him to receive accommodations for his autism. And yeah, that's definitely been a journey in and of itself. It's difficult. It's hard. Very, very hard. Because on top of just like day-to-day parenting, I'm also having to like really help him regulate his emotions and him navigating that. So it's hard, but even through that, it's been like, he's the best kid. Like, he's doing so well. So
that's so good.
Yeah.
Does he ever talk about the fire? Wait, how old was he?
So
if he's only
had
5.
just turned, if this was 2 years ago.
So he's 3?
Yes. He had just
so he
turned
probably
3.
doesn't even remember it for real, does he?
He does remember,
he
which
does.
is interesting to me. Because we were in his occupational therapy session and I forgot how it came up. I think he was looking at a fire truck and like a little activity that she had him doing. And he was like, yeah, like the fire truck that came when we had the fire. And I was like, I did not even know that he
remembered that.
Yeah, I did not know that he remembered that. And I was like,
I guess that is something you will remember.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of my earliest memories, and I was 5, I think.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything before then.
I don't really, maybe 3 is like right at the age where you kind of start keeping those memories. But yeah, because I guess, because I'm usually calm and collected. And I know that night he was scared because I was like, we gotta go, I woke him up because he was in my bed, thank goodness, which his room wasn't far from me, but he was in the bed with me. And I was like, Trey, and I just like scooped him up and
oh my God.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine.
So I guess for him, that's like hopefully it doesn't become a core memory. Like Inside Out.
No. You got a lot of time. Look at you. It's so funny because I mentioned Inside Out on my first episode. That's such a good movie.
It's so good.
I love it.
I keep trying to get him to watch it, but he's obsessed with dinosaurs. So
okay. Well, this has been so great.
Yes.
But I just want to ask one last question, I guess. And that's just, where do you see your journey with Christ going? I already know you spoke on Trey. You're doing your guidance, you're doing your due diligence, and basically going to let him go from there. But for you, is there anything that you're working on? Is there anything that you're looking forward to in this walk with Christ?
Yeah. So I just started back actually physically going to church. Like I have churches that I can go to, but at this point I'm looking for a church home. And I'm still looking. There's one that I've been going to that's really nice because it's non-denominational because I don't.
That's the church I go to, a non-denominational one.
Yeah. I'm not, Baptist or anything like that. So I like the non-denominational churches and just really working on getting back into, like I said, community. I think that part I neglected, especially after the fire. I just felt like I had to go like in my bubble and process. And now I'm getting back to a place where I'm ready to be back in the community. And because when I was younger, like I said, when I joined the church as a teenager, I was super involved. I was there like
me too.
5 days out of the week.
Girl,
like once I got my car, once I got my car, I'm going to church, Mom. And and that made me really, it helps keep you grounded, I think, when you're a part of something bigger. So I think that's the next step for me, just getting back in community. And I think it's good because I work from home, so I don't see people a lot. I'm at the house. So I think it's good to have that like familiar faces and, like, how is Trey doing? And, even those like little interactions mean a lot. So that's
like-minded individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
They say, well, let me ask you first how you feel about dating in the church. Because, you might go to church, find you a church, and find you a husband. Now, I don't think nothing's wrong with that, right? But how do you feel about that?
I think that's great. Because, we're in the same environment and, like you said, like-minded. So we already know that we have one thing in common.
Right.
We believe in Christ and God. So I think that's great. Okay. I think a lot of people find each other in, in the church and stuff. So I would rather find someone there than like anywhere else. Yeah.
That's true.
Out and about in the street.
That's facts. So not to go too much in the future, but once you do find that church, find that husband, everything.
Yes.
Do you think that you want to get back like involved in the church, like do some kind of service? Yeah.
Absolutely, for sure.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
I go to a church now that I've grew up in. Everybody knows me. And sometimes that's good, but sometimes I feel like when I walk into church, it's almost too much. So I definitely feel you when you say like bedside Baptist, you know? I was like that for a while because I felt like whenever I went into the church, it was almost too much attention. Now, I like attention. Don't get me wrong. You know, I made a podcast. Obviously, I like some form of attention, right? But when we're at church, I just come there for the word. I don't really come there to talk and do all that. And people at my church, they love to talk. They love to stare. I'm like, why are you looking at me when you should be looking at the service? And it's like, maybe because I come in dressed like this, but at the same time, this is me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm really on that journey to find my church home too. I know, I'm sorry for it again. But I really think that sometimes you can outgrow a church. The leadership is different than when I was there. The people are different from when I was a kid. So I am on the search for a good church home. So if you visit some church,
we can do that together.
Me, for real. Because there's one I will talk to you off air about that I've been seeing a lot, and I really would like to go. And it seems like it's like a younger crowd.
Yeah.
The pastor and the first lady are probably in their 40s, and they're Black.
Okay.
And so I'm like, I'm gonna check it out. And I almost feel guilty. Like, why do we feel guilty about that? I don't know. But I almost feel guilty for like cheating on my church. But I'm like, just like how I grow, like my faith grows, and I think that you should go where you feel most aligned.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like I experienced that in the past couple of years, just like outgrowing spaces. And it's okay.
It's
and
okay,
it's a little guilt that comes with it, but you know, it's just like
my life.
Yeah, even like friendships, relationships, like it's just like, okay, I think this has served its purpose. Just gonna keep on moving.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard, but
hey, I'm open.
Yeah, we can like share.
We have so much more life to live.
Yeah,
and like
exactly.
I said, we might go find our husbands at the church, girl.
Okay.
Not to say that that's our goal,
Right,
but I'm just
like
saying,
church.
just like they say, like that's how you usually meet your person is like you're just doing what you normally do. Like you go to the grocery store every Monday at 3:00, or you go to work and you take this route, and maybe you go to church. So. Not to say that that's our main focus, but it would be nice.
Yeah. Like, it'd be a nice little, little test.
All right. So we're going to get into our next segment, which is Hell is Hot. In this segment, we're going to see where Jasmine thinks that these people are. So we know we don't have a heaven or a hell to put anybody in, but hypothetically, we want to see where you think these deceased people are.
Okay.
So for the first one, I have Whitney Houston.
Heaven.
And we want to know why. Why you think she in heaven? I agree with you, by the way. She said, I don't know why. I just love her.
Right. I love me some Whitney. I feel like, honestly, her life's journey probably touched a lot of people and resonated for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think also like the age and where she was when she passed and like how that had come full circle. Probably, you know, like a lot of people related to. So I would say heaven.
I'd say heaven too.
My girl's sitting up there.
I think so too. I have two reasons why I think heaven. One, because I feel like she knew God. She grew up in the church. That's how she got her singing start. But also, which is like the foundation, like I said, you know, in those times where you feel like you've gone astray, knowing God is important because she's like, I know I can go to God when I'm, you know, during my times of like turmoil or anything. But also because with all this stuff coming out about these celebrities, I won't name any names, but you see the news.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of deceased people who maybe their image was tarnished and the truth was not out. So, you know, even her death was a little sketchy.
Yeah.
So I'm really not trusting that.
Yeah.
And I'm not trusting anything they said about her, honestly. I mean, they're obviously the drug situation. I think she even spoke on that. But there's some things
like,
I feel like, I feel like she probably even went to that because of stuff. And like we know that Hollywood and the singing industry, all that is very corrupt.
Yeah.
And so she was an angel. And I feel like maybe her job kind of tainted her.
Yeah.
So I would like to think that she's in heaven. Love you, Whitney. All right, one more. Malcolm X.
Heaven. Of course.
You said that fast. Okay.
Yeah,
Of course.
Of course. I mean.
And why you say that about Malcolm?
Oh, I mean, his impact was huge, you know, just during the time that he was alive, of course, with racism and all of that going on.
Yeah.
And having the courage to be a leader during that time, I feel like him and MLK, you know, like I feel like just imagine like how much courage that took to be in the forefront of such a movement that was, you know, people.
People are attacking you. They're attacking your family. They're coming at you on all sides. And you're like, I'm literally just trying to do the Lord's work in a sense. Like, I'm trying to bring people together. I'm trying to promote peace and all of this stuff. Even with Malcolm X and the Muslim church, like, that is crazy how they did him.
Yeah.
And you know, all he was trying to do was expose the truth and do what was right. So I definitely agree with you.
Right, yeah.
He's in heaven. Now, the other people, I don't know.
Right.
You know, but I definitely do think he is.
Yeah. For sure.
Right. That was good. Now, the last segment, Bop of the Week. Bop of the Week, I just want to know what you're listening to. What is something that you can't stop listening to? You play maybe every day. Your favorite song right now. It doesn't have to be a gospel song.
I would say every day I've been playing this song called Woody by, I believe her name is pronounced Anaya. It's INA.
Is this the new girl that just got signed to TDE?
I don't know.
Is that Anaya?
The singer?
She's a singer.
Or like, well, she kind of raps a little bit too.
I think that's her.
I've just come across her music and I really like her.
Maybe that's why, because she just got signed to TDE. But I'm not sure. Somebody would have to fact check me on that. But I'm pretty sure that's her name.
Maybe so. I have to
look that up. And the song is called what?
Woody.
I'm gonna have to check it out. Is it singing like R&B?
Yeah, it's singing and also kind of like she kind of raps a little bit. Kind of like
I'm gonna check her out.
Trying to think of who would be similar to her vibe, but I like it. I like her.
Okay.
Yeah.
My Bop of the Week, and it's kind of like an older song, but this girl has been getting bad rep lately. Tyla. Tyla's Art. Her. And I'll be your peace. I love that song. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the beat, but it's the beat. But it's also the fact that she's saying like, I'll be your art. And I love that. Like, I do think of myself as like a work of art. God crafted me the way that he wanted to craft me.
Yes.
And I just love that song. I will listen to it maybe 5 times in a row. And then I'll go to the next song. Like, I can't listen to it once.
Yeah.
It's one of those songs.
I have to listen to it because I like her.
And I feel like a lot of her songs sound alike, but that one stood out to me.
Okay.
So yeah I'm going to listen to Anaya. And you check out Art by Tyla. Oh, that kind of rhyme. But if you are good and have nothing to say, you don't have any advice or anything for my people.
Oh, advice?
Yeah. For the moms out there?
Yeah, I would say, and I had just had this thought the other day during my meditation, but I would say advice-wise, like know what's yours and what isn't. Because people will try to put things on you that isn't yours to take.
Hello.
And have that discernment and know what's yours.
Ooh.
Period.
I had to learn that lesson this week. I'm going to tell you after this. Oh my God. That is spot on. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but do not do this life without Christ. And at the end of the day, all you do for him is what matters. Thank you so much, Jasmine, for being on my show today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys for watching and or listening. Until next time, I'm Jomilla Denae.